This week on the show, eBay has expanded live selling to clothing and hopes to lure in some experienced sellers. The United States Postal Service announces their holiday shipping deadlines, and I sell a few more books. What is up, Galaxians? Welcome to episode number 268 of the Galaxy CDs, Rocks, and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. My name is Ryan, and I'm going to be your host. We've got a fairly short episode this week. I've only got, I think, maybe 5 or 6 news items and 5 or 6 things in the What Sold. So this one will probably be a quick and dirty after the last couple have been pretty lengthy, but there are a couple of things to talk about. One programming note, and it kind of ties into this first thing. I did start selling last week on Whatnot. And we will be having on the show Wednesday live Max from Common Ground Finds, who has been a longtime Whatnot seller, to talk about book selling in general and Whatnot specifically. So put that on your calendar, coming up on Wednesday. But with that, let's get into this reselling news.
News updates.
So over the last couple of weeks, we have talked about Whatnot, and they have done a tremendous job of expanding live selling, particularly in the U.S. market. And eBay has been trying to combat that now for a couple of years, and they have now added a new category and some incentives to try to bring in some experienced live stream sellers, probably trying to capture a few of those folks who are selling successfully over on Whatnot. So this article appeared over on Value Added Resource, and as always, I will link to these in the show notes and the video description down below. eBay has expanded their live selling to clothing and offering incentives to attract longtime experienced sellers, which we'll get into here in a minute. eBay is finally starting to expand live stream selling to more sellers, adding pre-loved clothing to the mix. But progress, they note, has been slow on this over 2-year-old beta program, leaving eBay looking for incentives to try to draw sellers away from competitors who've beat them to the punch, to be quite fair. eBay Live launched in June of 2022, and while a few new categories have been added since then, as well as its introduction over in the UK and availability on both desktop and mobile, many sellers have been frustrated with the glacial pace of the rollout and the restrictive application process, with some moving to other platforms like, again, the aforementioned Whatnot instead. The expansion to include more fashion and clothing categories in eBay Live was announced by VP GM Global Verticals Ashish Chabra at eBay Open 2024, but the live seller application form shows even more recent changes and a clear focus on finding sellers who are already established on other live stream platforms and/or, interestingly, have a significant social media following. First, eBay wants to know how many sales and followers you have already on the site. If you're watching on YouTube, you can kind of see some of the screenshots here of what this questionnaire looks like. How much did you sell on eBay in the last calendar year, with the first entry being less than 100K and the top one being 3 million plus? How many followers do you have on your eBay store, ranging from less than 100 to over 100,000? They also want to know what kind of categories of inventory you have, including sports trading cards, collectible card games, sports memorabilia, coins and bullion, comics, toys, apparel, handbags, footwear, watches, refurbished electronics, and then what they categorize as other, and whether your primary business model is consignment, authorized reseller, brand, manufacturer, reseller, or other. And again, you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, kind of the screenshots of the checklist of things that they're asking. They also, interestingly, want to know what your activity is on competing platforms, including how many followers you have on social media and a dollar amount earned in the last year and time spent streaming per week. Competitors eBay is clearly keeping a close eye on include Whatnot, TikTok, Fanatics Live, Poshmark Live, Loop, Drip, Network, and Pop Shop Live. Those are all the ones that are mentioned, again, in this kind of introductory questionnaire. Interestingly, many of those were also named in a recent survey conducted by Whatnot for their first State of Live Streaming Selling report, but eBay was not on their list, which is very, very interesting. They apparently don't yet consider eBay much of a threat in the live selling area, which should certainly get eBay's attention. They're clearly looking for sellers who will be willing to commit to a decent amount of time streaming on their site every week and appear to have a preference for live stream sellers who have an experienced host and professional studio space and equipment ready to go. They're looking for sellers. The questions ask, have you streamed less than 3 hours a week to more than 20 hours a week? And how much have you done in live stream selling, ranging from less than 10,000 again to over 3 million? So they're looking for some big time sellers. And they want to know, if you joined eBay Live, how many hours would you intend to stream on eBay Live when you first join? Do you currently have studio space with equipment to conduct live shopping events on eBay Live, which would indicate that they're looking for something more than what a lot of sellers are able to do over on Whatnot, which is to just sit down with their phone and stream them sitting in their living rooms with stacks of stuff kind of laying around. It looks like they want maybe a little bit more professional look. I don't know. Whatnot obviously is hugely successful with that current model, so I'm not sure that eBay, maybe they're just trying to differentiate themselves, but trying to focus on things that are very different than that, I'm not sure makes total sense to me. Let me know in the comments if you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify what you think of eBay's efforts in the live streaming area. They have also been notorious for having some glitches in that system. Most famously, their live event they tried to do with Elton John's charity back in the summer. So let me know what you think of all that. Speaking of glitches, this is the gift that keeps giving. eBay offer glitches and changes frustrate both buyers and sellers, and it was not limited to just offers. eBay has had problems going back several weeks that have continued through the weekend. I've had multiple sellers reach out to me this weekend asking if I've had problems with either offers or with setting up or doing promoted listings, both of which seem to be having a lot of technical issues at the moment. eBay users have been reporting a series of issues with offers, with some clearly technical glitches and others possibly intended changes that were not working as intended or expected. First, a glitch in the eBay app is giving mobile users error messages about the minimum discount required, with, this article says, some off-the-wall numbers being quoted. Normally, it's a tiered structure. The amount in your offer to a buyer must be lower than the buy-it-now price in the listing by at least 5% for items under $200, at least 3% for items between $200 and $1,000, and at least 2% lower for items over $1,000. But for those experiencing the glitch, it's forcing different minimum amounts. One user wrote in, I used to be able to send $10 to $15 off items priced at $300 to $400 plus, but now eBay is forcing a 5% discount at least and not allowing me to send offers unless it's 5% or more discounted on any and all items. I don't know how everyone else runs their own stores or businesses, but I personally prefer having ultimate control over discounting my items, not giving a set amount by the platform I am selling on. That is, in a different way, something we've talked about with Mercari and the way their offer system works, where you do offer a minimum of a 10% discount, and then the next time you want to send out an offer, it has to be 10% less than the previous offer. So again, it's a lack of control that sellers feel they have. Now, again, to be clear, I have not experienced this particular issue myself. Now, I generally give at least a 10 or 15% off offer on my stuff. So I'm not kind of in this category where I might be trying to give a lesser dollar amount, but clearly other sellers are experiencing this problem. Another seller said, for some people, the app was showing crazy, obviously incorrect information like a minimum 750% discount required, or in some cases, a random number with a decimal like 18.38%. And again, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see a couple of screenshots here. The seller's trying to take 5% off and gets a warning, the percent off must be at least 750%. That is insanity. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know if this has been resolved as of recording. When I talked to some sellers on Saturday, they were still experiencing this issue. So let me know in the comments when you hear this or see this. Is this going on with you? They say that using the desktop or the mobile browser version rather than the web app does work around this. So you can try that if you're having problems. Other sellers are frustrated with another technical glitch, which is not, or maybe it's not a glitch necessarily, but it's just a problem in the way it's set up with eBay not allowing for combined shipping on offers, which is something I experience almost every day, to be fair. One reader wrote in with a recent experience they had when a buyer accepted an offer with multiple items in the cart. Oh boy. So when eBay made that change to keeping things up for others to be able to buy, they changed it so that if a buyer accepts blind offers, they can pay for what's in their cart, but that combined shipping doesn't happen. But it won't give them my shipping discount on multiple items from the start, and I can't invoice those items as they were in a blind accepted offer. So essentially what they're saying is you send out blind offers, you have no idea you're in your send offer eligible, and you send out 10 offers, and let's say 5 of those go to one particular person who then accepts all 5 of those offers. It does not combine those into one purchase. It charges each individual sale and processes 5 individual orders with 5 full-priced shipping charges. So you're stuck as a seller having to go back in later and discount and refund shipping. In some cases, I talked to one seller last week or 2 weeks ago that had a situation like this where they had to give 4 or 5 different refunds because the total refund amount was significantly higher than any of the individual items ordered. So you couldn't just refund it even on one order. It adds a ton of labor to just trying to do the right thing to your customers. If I went, they said, to buy 13 records like this and it didn't bundle them, instead of trying to charge me $103 on what would be at most $20 in shipping, I might just not buy it, thinking that the seller is trying to rip me off. So that's the other side of the issue. And it's one of those that I have had multiple buyers, potential buyers, reach out to me and say, hey, I want to buy these 2 or 3 items, but I can't combine them. What can we do? And I always write back and say, yes, it's a known problem with eBay. I will refund you when I ship these, the shipping difference between what eBay charged you and what I had to pay to do that. But again, that's an extra step, multiple extra steps. It's a message from a potential buyer and a response from a seller, and then doing the math and processing one or maybe multiple refunds. We're all busy people. We got stuff to do. This should be an easier process. There should be some way, and again, I'm not a programmer. There should be some way for a system to recognize that one person is accepting offers from one seller and that there are multiple. And I know that there's been a big push for immediate payment, and this is a unintended side effect of that, is that by forcing people to put in a credit card or whatever their method of payment is in advance of making or accepting an offer to do immediate payment, which is something we've all been clamoring for, we've now got this kind of unintended consequence of all these individual orders being processed. So it is a known issue. Hopefully they can sort it out at some point, because it is, like I said, it happens to me probably 4 or 5 times a week. There have also been multiple reports that an intentional feature change allowing items with offers accepted to remain active until or unless a buyer pays for the item may not be functioning as intended, with buyers apparently not receiving a message that their counteroffer has been accepted and that they now need to pay to complete the transaction. So that is a real problem as well. So you've got someone sent you an offer, you accepted, and it just sits out there in limbo because they're not getting a notification. So let me know again in the comments if this is something that you've experienced, either of these. Again, the promoted listings issue isn't addressed in this article, but I did have a couple of sellers that reached out this weekend and mentioned that they're still having problems putting in percentages for promoted listings, and they're not being accepted. With eBay's big push behind promoted listings, you would think that would be one thing that they would want to have absolutely nailed down, but they do not. Another seller reached out, I think it was Den Decor Depot, who noticed on one of his, and this is something that we've talked about probably several times on this show, he was looking at some of his listings, and very high in his item page was a promoted listing for a different seller with a similar or the same item. And that, again, is really problematic. He is using promoted listings. So his listing may have been seen through a promoted click, and here in his listing is another promoted item from another seller. It's probably gone a little too far, eBay, for what it's worth. Over in the UK, more drama. This has at least been helpful, I guess. eBay UK throws business sellers a bone with fee-free used clothing sales until the end of the year, with all the announcements recently about private sellers being able to sell fee-free and the introduction of Vinted Pro over there. There's been a big push to get something given to the sellers, and this was eBay's response. It looks like they're responding to those shots fired, though apparently they wanted to try to keep a lid on it by using direct email promotional invites offering select business sellers fee-free used clothing sales through the end of the year rather than making a big public announcement. Unfortunately for eBay, of course, those sellers aren't interested in keeping their thoughts about the whole situation quiet. Here are a look at some of the sellers in the UK community celebrating what they got. Would you finally believe it? Finally, they have heard us. We wanted to let you know about a limited time opportunity for business sellers like you to sell your pre-loved clothing for free until the end of the year. All you need to do is opt in and sell your items that are in used condition. As soon as you've opted in, you won't pay any insertion, final value, or regulatory fees through the end of the year. Others made the connection, of course, to Vinted Pro and their announcement about the aforementioned changes. Clothing sellers can now register on Vinted Pro. I did yesterday, then got the offer today from eBay. I presume this is a reaction, said the seller, from eBay to Vinted actively encouraging sellers who are happy to register as a business and do things properly. Another seller said, seems like a reactionary move in response to the launch of Vinted Pro. Some questioned the business sense of making such a move, meaning lost revenue for eBay during the fourth quarter. For a short time only, maybe to encourage some under the right business account too, I suspect, said one seller. So eBay seems to be giving up a lot of potential revenue at the moment, removing fees for private sales. And now this. Of course, the thought process behind all that is you get more sellers, you get more items, you make more sales, and that will, in some area, begin to offset all of that. Because they're, as they said in their own press release, they found that a lot of those people then do go on to buy other items that you assume would qualify to have fees paid on them. So again, some of this, you see this normally with new businesses that are attempting to grow their business early on. They're willing to sell at a loss, to do aggressive promotions and advertising to try to capture customers. Think about what Amazon did when they first started to break out, free shipping and huge discounts and all that kind of stuff. And now they've got this enormous captive audience. Normally, you don't see well-developed businesses needing to resort to this kind of thing to try to grow their business, but that's where eBay is at the moment. There are several videos linked here. Important to note, there are a few caveats. The promotion only applies to apparel items, and they must be listed in used condition, and it does not apply to anything in new or anything in shoes or accessory categories in any condition. Secondly, the promotion is invite only, and you do have to opt in to activate it if you actually received it. So again, another situation where it's being handled a little unevenly. Not all sellers are probably getting this message and getting the opportunity to opt in. If you're in the UK and happen to be listening to this, let us know. Did you get this and did you opt in? More eBay UK as they continue to try to correct what has been going on over there with business sellers registered as private sellers, which has caused them some regulatory problems. They're now restricting baby toys and e-bikes to sellers who are registered as businesses only. eBay UK is notifying users that as of October 31st, sales of baby toys and e-bikes, chargers, and kits will be restricted to active, established business sellers in order to make sure these products adhere to UK safety standards. So again, if you're a guy or a gal in the UK and you've got some baby toys that you want to sell, or you got an old e-bike that you're not riding anymore that you want to sell, you're not going to be able to sell it on eBay. You're going to have to find another course. The notice went out in an email apparently targeted to sellers who have sold in these categories in the past. It read, we're getting in touch to let you know that we're updating our policy for selling e-bikes and their batteries, chargers, conversion kits, and baby toys on ebay.co.uk. So remember, this is UK only, and on their specific, this is not ebay.com, this is ebay.co.uk. To ensure that these products adhere to UK safety standards when sold on our marketplace, from 31 October 2024, only eligible business sellers will be able to list them for sale in the UK. The impacted products, again, are e-bikes, which includes the bikes themselves, batteries, chargers, kits. These products can only be sold by business sellers. Please note that used e-bike batteries will no longer be able to be sold on ebay.co.uk. So used e-bike batteries won't be able to be sold at all, regardless of how your seller account is registered. Baby toys, items for the use of children under 36 months, can only be sold by businesses registered as businesses in the UK. In addition to that above criteria, you also have to have an established history of selling for at least 90 days with 100 or more transactions and £1,000 or more in sales in the last 12 months, a track record of delivering positive buyer experiences, including an account that's above standard or top rated, and you have to be compliant with all applicable laws, regulations, and eBay policies. You have to have registered for eBay Managed Payments and verified your identity, which I know a lot of sellers have been remiss to do, and to provide great customer service like delivering items on time. So pretty restrictive. They're really trying to crack down on this. The move comes as eBay just announced fee-free selling for private UK sellers in all categories except motor. So this article says it's not surprising that they would seek to clamp down on certain dangerous or restricted products that may flood the marketplace without the normal consumer protections that should come from purchasing from a business. But as one seller in the UK community pointed out, the devil will be in the enforcement details, and unfortunately, eBay doesn't have a great track record on that front, particularly when it comes to the often complex category structure on the site. This is going to cause a stir, the writer said. The first thing that springs to mind is what actual eBay categories are going to be blocked for private sellers. Will it just be baby toys and activities and then categories, or will it also include toys and games, categories where that age range can be selected in the item specifics? If it doesn't include the latter, then that will be an obvious loophole. You just move over there and put them in that category and boom, you're good to go. Just had a quick look, the writer said, and there are currently 54,000 plus listings from private sellers in the toys and games category when you use the two filters, 12 months and under and 1 to 2 years. That, of course, doesn't include the no doubt many more that just haven't got that item specific filled in. So again, here's a case, theoretically, where not filling in the item specific could allow you to skirt this new policy from eBay over in the UK. Probably one of the reasons for their big push to get people to fill out those item specifics is to be able to track down things like this. So there you go. eBay in the UK, remarkable for a company at this stage of its life cycle to be going through these kind of growing pains. A couple of more quick announcements. The first one, Amazon holiday returns extended start on November 1st of this year. So this is not really surprising. Amazon's extended holiday returns for the United States will run from November 1st through December 31st, and items will be able to be returned until January 31st of 2025. So if you are a seller over on Amazon or a buyer over on Amazon, be aware that anything purchased beginning on November 1st, the return window does extend until the end of January of next year. And lastly, the United States Postal Service has posted their holiday shipping dates for the lower 48 states. This does not include Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, any of the protected territories and any of that kind of stuff. This is just the lower 48. Domestic services ground advantage, you need to ship by December 18th. First class, December 18th. Priority, you get an extra day, December 19th. And Priority Mail Express, you do get until December 21st to be able to ship with Priority Mail Express. So be aware of those deadlines. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, those are all a day or two later than they were last year. I'd have to go back and look at a calendar to see if maybe that has to do with where the holiday falls versus where a weekend falls where they don't ship much, but it looks like it's an extra day there. So there you go. That's your holiday shipping deadlines. Need to always be aware of those to get your stuff out as quickly as you can. Media mail is never covered in this. It is a slightly slower service, so my expectation would be Anything that you ship probably prior to December 10th or 12th is likely to arrive on time, but anything after that could be a little bit dicey. With that, let's do a little bit of what's sold. Pretty short one this week. It was actually a very busy week. I sold, what was it, 97 listings overall, but it was a lot of low value stuff. As I mentioned, I did start selling over on Whatnot. It has been an interesting experience. I've attempted to do 3 shows. I did 2 fairly successfully. I sold 16 items over 2 shows for a whopping grand total of $27. Now, to be fair, I wasn't taking a lot of high dollar stuff over there. My first show of any consequence is going to be Monday morning at 11. I've got 20 kind of vintage and antique books that I'm going to try to run a show on and see if I do any better with that. The first 2 shows were essentially kind of science fiction paperbacks, pulp books from the 50s and 60s, not real high value stuff, but I did sell a few of them. The ones I didn't, interestingly, I put into a lot at a fairly low price and threw it up on eBay and Mercari and sold it almost immediately over on Mercari. So I sold all those books anyway. I just didn't sell them on Whatnot. Interesting experience. I'm looking forward to learning more on Wednesday by talking to Max. And hopefully you will join us for that as well. And to kind of continue to grow into what I want to do over on Whatnot. I think there is an opportunity there to, again, add a not insignificant amount of business to what I'm doing. So we'll see how that goes. Feel free. There's a link in my YouTube and in my link tree to my I don't even know what they call it. Is it a channel? To my store, to my whatever, my profile over on Whatnot. Come hang out in the chat like you do on the lives and make it a little more interesting. So anyway, 97 listings sold over the week. I listed, I don't know, it was 170 something, 176 or 178, but that included populating 6 or 7 shows over on Whatnot. My third attempt at a sale crashed and burned because a automatic Windows update processed overnight before the next show. I didn't realize before I went live that it had changed all of my settings, and I went to go live and I had nothing. I had no sound. I had nothing. I couldn't do anything. It was awful. I now have all that resolved and I'm ready to go for Monday morning. So anyway, this first item sold over on eBay. Preaching About Crises in the Community by Samuel D. Proctor, a 1988 first printing, kind of a religious book for ministers and preachers. Interestingly, this sold right before Hurricane Milton hit Florida and sold to someone in Florida. So I assume this was somebody trying to get prepared for what is a pretty daunting couple of weeks or more to come down there. Thoughts go out to everyone involved in that situation. That was a massive, nasty storm. But this sold over on eBay for $20.99 plus shipping. The order total was $27.54. I paid $4.11 in fees, $1.93 for a promoted listing fee. My cost of goods sold on this was 50 cents as part of a big bulk purchase of religious books that I did. So my net profit ended up being $14.45. This was an interesting one. I picked up a bunch of these at an estate sale, 10 days or so ago, maybe a couple of weeks. All of these were from 1919 and 1920. This is the second one I think I've sold, but the first one that was high enough dollar to qualify for this. Ypres and the Battles of Ypres. This was a Michelin illustrated guide to the battlefields of World War I. There was a big stack of, I don't know, maybe a dozen of these at this sale. They were not in terrific condition. Some of them had their dust jackets, but a lot of the dust jackets were damaged, torn, dirty. This house was a mess. But there was some cool stuff in there. I did overpay probably for some of these, but they were interesting enough that I went ahead and took the gamble. Sold this on eBay for $24.99 plus shipping. Order total was $29.62. I paid $4.39 in fees and $2.07 in the ad fee. Shipping was just $4.63. I am into these for $2.70 a piece, which for those of you who've been playing along here for a while know that is really expensive for me. I'm not anywhere near that kind of number normally, but I wanted some inventory and these looked cool, looked like they might sell, and so far, not too bad. This netted me $15.83. Interesting book local to the area, Dayton, Ohio writer Oakwood, The Far Hills by Bruce and Virginia Ronald. This is about the Dayton, Ohio area. It's an illustrated hardcover from 1983 in fantastic condition. This is one that I picked up in a big estate cleanout for 54 whole cents. This was sold over on Etsy at 10% off. The item sale price ended up being $26.99 plus shipping. I paid $3.32 in fees, $5.38 to ship it. My total costs were $9.24. This item that sold for $26.99 plus ended up netting me $23.13. Back over to eBay. High resolution transmission, electron microscopy, and associated techniques. That is a mouthful. This was part of a big lot of electron microscope books and manuals that I picked up maybe 6 months ago in a big bulk buy for about 91 cents a piece. This actually sold with another smaller handbook that went for like $12, but I didn't include that one here. This was listed for $39.99. I accepted an offer of $33.99 plus shipping. I paid $6.33 in fees, $3.08 in promoted listings general fees. Again, the cost of goods sold, 91 cents. My total cost $20.39, which led to a net profit of $23.67. Troublesome Daughters by L.B. Walford, an 1880s era hardcover published by the W.B. Conkey Company out of Chicago. Really old book. No printing date or information in it, but as I researched it, it looked to be from the mid to late 1880s, so that's what we went with. This sold over on eBay. It was listed for $39.99. I received an offer of $36 plus shipping, which I went ahead and accepted. I paid $6.27 in fees. Cost of goods sold, again, this was part of a big lot, so I was into this for 54 cents. My total costs were just $13.69, so my net profit, $29.94. This was a cool one. Another part of a big bulk buy. Guy had a bunch of old, like vintage 1940s and 50s books about how to coach football. And this was Fly T Football by Poole, Nordman, Hunt, Sanders, and Trump from 1957, an illustrated hardcover that was in really remarkable condition for a book of that age. I had it listed for $44.99, got a watcher, sent out my usual 15% off offering, and sold it for $38.24 plus shipping. My fees were $6.66, ad fees $3.26, cost of goods sold in part of a lot was 91 cents. My net profit, $27.41. This is 3 old books bought at an estate sale, and again, another big clean out that I did. Nations of the World. There's, I don't even know, probably 18 or 20 volumes total in this set. Originally, I did not have all of them, so I priced these out individually. This person bought Hawthorne's United States, volumes 1, 2, and 3. These were published by P.F. Collier and Sons back in 1898. They were in fantastic condition for that age. I had them listed and sold all 3 of these for $12.99 each. The customer's total was $38.97 plus shipping. The grand total was $50.38. I paid $7.18 in fees, $3.53 in promoted listings fees. Shipping, I sent these out Ground Advantage because it was a little cheaper, $6.26, so I made about $1.60 on shipping. Cost of goods sold total for these 3 items was $2.16. My net profit, $27.46. And that, my friends, is it this week. Like I said, not a whole ton going on there. A few interesting things, lots of low dollar stuff. Like I said, 97 listings sold over the course of the week, but grand total of kind of big, interesting things, not all that high. So again, let me know in the comments what you think of any of this, what you thought of the news this week. Please be able to join us on Wednesday to talk about Whatnot with Max. I think that'll be an interesting conversation because I know there's a lot of folks that have questions about what success looks like over on Whatnot. Whatnot is obviously having terrific success. As we reported here last week, they just crossed $2 billion in sales this year. I've been watching an insane amount of shows over on Whatnot. And it's interesting the difference. I see some sellers who are selling really high value, high dollar stuff at auction and are bringing in really terrific money. And then I see other sellers who are sitting there with massive piles of books and just holding them up one after the other until somebody says, yes, go ahead and run that. And then they start at $1 and sell it for $1. And I'm not sure that's a business model I would be interested in. So it's going to be really interesting to hear what he has to say about it and kind of feel my way through what I want to craft my business to look like over there. So let me know what you think of that. And hopefully we will see you on Wednesday. If you got something out of this episode today, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. If you are watching on YouTube, if you're not currently a subscriber to the YouTube channel or a follower of the podcast on whatever podcast platform you choose to listen on, please consider doing that as well. We'd love to have you in the family. I hope everybody has a great week. And now it's time to sell. Thanks, guys. You have been listening to the Galaxy CDs Rocks and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you again next time.